Hi everyone, it's Jay Egersdorff here previewing game week 16 of the Fantasy Premier League. What a week! Game weeks 14 and game weeks 15 coming thick and fast, pretty much right next to each other. So we're out the other side and I'm pretty pleased with the result. I got 65 in game week 14 and 71 in game week 15, so that's a really mega rise through the rankings for me. So I was 257,000th and I'm now up to 123,000. So it goes to show 2 game weeks that go your way, you can really turn things around. So if anybody's had a bad couple of weeks, and particularly game week 15 in the last couple of days, lots of rotation making life really nightmarish for FPL managers. But the good news is it's not too tricky to turn it round. And the beauty of Christmas, like we talked about last week, the games come thick and fast. The game weeks roll around really, really quickly. So you can build momentum and get things moving again in the right direction. So number of players doing well for me. Sterling, Sané, Wilson, Richarlison finally broke the curse on Harry Kane. Those of you who have watched the videos and followed me on social media long enough will know that I had a really bad Christmas last year when I decided to take out Kane. Brought him back in yesterday and he got 12 points, so that's brilliant for Captain Kane. So we're going to chat about some of the usual stuff, but I'm going to chat about game week 16. So I want to cover replacements for Arnautovic. Looks like he's got a bad hamstring injury. I think he could be out for a few weeks. What to do about Arsenal? They're just about to hit this great run of form. Southampton and their new manager. And I'm going to chat a bit about Chelsea and a bit about Man City as well ahead of their big match on Saturday evening. Also going to cover left field options, FPL Donut and captain options this week. So let's start with game week 16. Arnautovic replacements. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago that I actually felt Arnautovic was a bit of a tricky one. He was holding a fair bit of value compared to people like Wilson who was a little cheaper and holding a spot in people's teams that may have been holding back getting somebody like a Kane or a Aubameyang. And lo and behold, the poor guy's gone and got injured. So in a roundabout way, despite West Ham's fixtures being really good, I don't think it's a huge disaster because it gives us a bit of flex. Lots of people had Arnautovic anyway, makes the game a bit boring. So tons of options here, I think. You've got, if you don't have him, it's a bit boring, but I can't see how you can't have Wilson. Second top scorer in the game is points per £1 million. It must be the best by an absolute mile. He's on form. Alright, his fixtures aren't great, but he's scored against Man United recently. He's scored against Man City at the Etihad. I'm kind of thinking, what more do you want? This guy plays every week. I can't really see further than that if you don't have him. A bit more riskier option, and I do like this guy. He has got some good fixtures. There's a caveat to it, and that's Mitrovic. The caveat is that he's already got 4 yellow cards. But so that means if he gets one more, he'll get banned. But what I thought about this actually, funnily, if you do have him or if you are thinking about it, don't let that put you off. And the reason being, if he gets booked, we'll know he'll definitely miss a game. So part of the problem for game week 15 was nobody knew who was going to get rotated. And so I was fortuitous. Not many of my players got rotated, only 2. Sterling and Robertson, but other managers had a whole ton of different players that didn't play or only came on for a couple of minutes at the end. So if Mitrovic does get booked, you will know that when his rest is going to come, so you can plan around it. So I don't let that put you off too much if you think Mitrovic is the way to go. He does have some good fixtures. Couple of sort of more left field options. We talked about Rondon. I think it was in the last video. Scored at Everton yesterday. 3 bonus. He's got some good home games. A switch I thought about straight away, and this is risky, but risk and reward and all that, is just switching to this guy Perez. I checked out his track record. I've read up about this guy. He's not I wouldn't say he's a prolific goal scorer, but I'd expect him to fill the Arnautovic role in Arnie's absence. Did get 2 on his cameo the other night, so he could be one to look at. Bit risky. And then your other option, of course, is to take that money out of the attack. You could put in Success, you could put in Camera. Camera did start and score the other day, last night. Success seems to be in the team, doesn't seem to get a huge amount of points, but I looked at his track record. He is featured in every single game, so he's guaranteed at least 1 point and at least some pitch time. And as we saw last couple of days in game week 15, no clean sheet, so I don't know why that is, but I tend to find around Christmas time, particularly Boxing Day, I don't know whether it's people being generous at Christmas or whatever it is, there always just seems to be a lot of goals, so never a bad thing to have a striker, even if it's, you know, maybe a sub, because at the end of the day everyone's going to get rotated anyway, so yes, you need them to play every week, but you're never going to predict how much pitch time they're going to get, so maybe you could take the money out and maybe that would allow you to bring in a better midfielder. So they're the options for me. Let's chat about Arsenal. So I've watched their last couple of games. A couple of caveats here for me. So I watched Spurs, I watched Man United. I think they look better with Lacazette up front. I think they look better with both Aubameyang and Lacazette on the pitch, and the way they structure that is Lacazette goes through the middle. They have switched systems to play through at the back, and I have a feeling, and I may get this totally wrong, but I think that system change is a result of who they're playing. I think when they're playing more simple teams, particularly at home, they go for that more attacking four defenders and the Lacazette and Aubameyang with a third forward player in the attack. So I would expect to see that system rolled out at weekend. You know, maybe I'm wrong, Arsenal fans. You may know more than me. One thing I don't like about this Emery guy, and I've talked about it all season, he's getting a lot of praise from pundits, and this is because he's willing to make changes. He's willing to drop people, sub people, bring people off early. So of course for FPL that's a real pain because he can spring a surprise at any minute. So, you know, for example, Kolasinac looks great at the moment, but you never know, he might be out next week and Monreal's back. I know Monreal's been injured, but I just think we mustn't get too excited with this guy because we can't predict him yet. Maybe we'll never be able to predict him because he will always manage in that way, and that makes our life quite difficult. A little bit on Southampton. I don't know much about this new manager, but people on social media and people who know the Bundesliga seem to be getting quite excited about this guy. But crikey, does this guy need a fast start? So they've got Cardiff at weekend. That's a massive game. So if you do have Southampton players kicking about your squad, I've got Højbjerg, whatever he's called, for example. I'll probably stick on to him for a little bit and just see how it pans out. But I think it's probably wise to have an eye on Southampton. There could be some bargains there. Maybe people like Cedric, Redmond, the guys up front could come good. So definitely keep an eye on that. I know the fixtures aren't great. And then finally, Chelsea, Man City. Well, the tale of two teams. Chelsea massively out of sorts. City really on form. I watched City on Tuesday against Watford, and really they should have been out of sight. There was a period of play after about 65-70 minutes. Mahrez went through and he got a decent shot off in the end, but he should really have squared it to a teammate to make it 3-0, and it cut to Guardiola, and Guardiola was really berating him. And then of course Watford got a goal back, and it was a bit fast and furious at the end, but they hung on. But I just think City, that City team didn't have Sterling, De Bruyne and Aguero in, and they still played really, really well. So, I do think they'll turn up at Chelsea and get a result there on Saturday. And likewise, Chelsea are on a really torrid run of form at the moment, so that's making their lives quite difficult. So that's game week 16 in a nutshell. FPL Donut, I think this accolade, word of it must be getting round the Premier League at the minute because there was a number of contenders in the last couple of weeks. There's obviously quite a bit of competition amongst the Premier League players to win this. So we had Vertonghen with his red card, Meunier with a red card, Shane Duffy with some sort of pub brawl. I don't know what he was doing with a red card, but I think there can only be one winner. I know people who own Diang, and I've got that name right now, and I know a lot of you would criticise me for that, but Diang, I believe he was on for a decent points haul in the Merseyside derby. I think he was on for maybe 2 or 3 bonus, and our friend Pickford did what he did in the 96th minute and cost everyone a whole bunch of points and cost Everton a credible draw. So Jordan, you're the FPL donut of the week. And then finally, let's chat about left field options. So I think there's quite a lot at the minute. There's because of the fluidity of the fixtures, lots of people coming into the team, lots of players who've maybe been on the sidelines for a bit with a point to prove. So I've gone for a player that I tipped at the start of the season that I remember he used to play for Reading in the Prem, and he was a young lad, big lanky chap, and he's grown up a bit. 5 or 6 years later, he's now a real man mountain. Sean Morrison of Cardiff. I don't think Cardiff are going to keep many clean sheets. I don't think they're going to necessarily let in loads, but I do think this guy's a real threat. They've got a long throw that they're deploying at the minute with Gunnarsson. A lot of their goals are going to come from set pieces. I saw an interview with him after the Wolves match. I watched that match last week, and he said that he was really disappointed not to have scored yet, and that last season he got 7, so he felt it was only a matter of time before he scored. So he's 4.7. If you need a bargain, maybe a defender to rotate with other ones, then he could be a good option, just as a differential. Midfielder, we got very excited about this guy in pre-season, and then he didn't hit a very good run of form, then he lost his place in the team. Scored last night, back in the Wolves side. I imagine he'll be circa 5.9, maybe a bit lower, and that's Jota. So have a look at him. Wolves fixtures are okay still for a couple of weeks. And then a striker that scored a brilliant goal. He scored 2 in 2. He scored a brilliant goal on Wednesday or Tuesday night. And he's another cheap attacker, so maybe an Arnie replacement. I mean, there's a small risk. I don't know about this guy's game time, but Brighton fans, maybe you can fill us in. This chap, Romanian striker Andone, not quite sure if you pronounce that right. He looks pretty good. 2 in 2. What more do you want? Maybe that could be a bargain option. And then finally, captains this week. So as we saw on Wednesday, a lot of people captained Salah and he got dropped. So I vice captained Sterling, and he didn't play at all. So I had Kane as captain, and I was praying to God that Kane didn't pick up a cold or a stomach bug or trip over in some frost, so he could take his place in the team on Wednesday. So I think for those reasons, I talked last week about will Kane get rested ahead of Leicester. Based on what I saw last night, he didn't get subbed off early. I think maybe not. Maybe he's somebody who just loves playing every single match. We talked about the Arsenal guys. I mean, Huddersfield at home looks pretty good. Emery, though, the surprise rotation, that's a bit tricky. So I think the nailed-on player, if you do have him, he didn't play midweek. Well, there's probably 2, isn't there? There's Salah, because he didn't start, so he looks pretty nailed on to start, and Sterling. So if you have either of them, I think if you do want to go for another captain that may get rotated, why not put one of those guys as vice-captain, and then you're covered if they don't play at all. But I think, yeah, it's tough, that Kane one. I mean, there's logic to see him being rested, but at the same time, Leicester away is a pretty tough match. So look out for the press conferences. Let's see if there's any more news before that, before the deadline. Is it Saturday? It'll be Saturday, won't it? So that's it for now. Shout out as ever to all you guys for tuning in and watching. A big hello and a big thank you to my guys on the FPL Masterclass, the Patreon site I'm doing. I've had some really lovely feedback on the Christmas preview video and article that I put together, so thank you, and a whole bunch of new members in the last couple of weeks, so hey to you guys. Thanks for getting on board, really appreciate your support with that. I'm really enjoying doing it, so hope you have a great game week 16, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.